Good morning everybody, and welcome back to another market analysis for the month of March. Now in March, there's actually been a few pretty big updates that have had a significant effect on the economy. Most recently, we have the Guardians of the Rift, which has had a pretty significant effect on the price of runes, as well as a few other existing items. Plus, there's a bunch of brand new items to have a look at as well. The Shattered League's Relic also ended this month, which has introduced a ton of new unique rewards from that as well. And there's just a ton of movement in the economy this month, both items crashing and swiftly increasing in value. So there's a lot to talk about. I hope you guys enjoy as always. If you enjoy these videos, always appreciate a like on them. Anyway, let's get started. Now the Guardians of the Rift update just came out last week, and while most of the rewards aren't tradable, it still has had a very significant effect on a bunch of different items in the game, mainly runes, but a few other things as well. Now that said, to start off here, there are actually a few tradable rewards, not many, but by far the most expensive one and the flagship purchasable reward is the Ring of the Elements. Now the Ring of the Elements, I would say, is actually worth surprisingly more than I would have expected before I knew anything about it from the update. It started off by selling for over hundreds of millions of GP each, quickly crashed to around 10 mil each, and has kind of remained there for the week. So why is this item still worth so much? Well, it comes down to two factors in my opinion. One, it's pretty slow to obtain. While it's not RNG dependent exactly, and it's obtainable from a shop, it's still very slow to obtain. It takes a long time to acquire Abyssal Pearls, and there's a lot of other items in the shop that you might consider buying instead. For example, the Rune Crafting Skilling Outfit. So yes, it's rare, but on top of that, it's actually incredibly useful, much more useful than I would have imagined. It has made crafting mud runes a viable alternative to lava rune crafting, and I think that is propping up the value to some degree. Now another kind of interesting item here we have is the Blood Talisman. Now it's worth almost $1 mil, but that is propped up purely due to rarity, because while I didn't know this when I bought one, you really don't need to buy this for $1 mil because you can simply buy the Catalytic Talisman, which works for all catalytic altars, including a blood altar, and is like 20k. So yeah, don't buy this. But because the only way to buy it is with Abyssal Pearls, and that's about 100 each, it still has value simply because it's kind of rare. So with the Guardians of the Rift being out for around a week now, how much has that had an effect on the price of runes? Because before the update came out, I assumed pretty much all runes would crash immensely, not only because you can obtain them in the minigame fairly easily, but more so because the Rune Crafting Skilling Outfit could increase the amount of runes you get by up to 60%, which is a significant boost. And I kind of assumed that eventually runes would lower in price to adjust for how many more were coming into the game due to the skilling outfit. Well, let's have a look at blood runes to start with here. Blood runes currently worth around 300 each. And while they did crash a bit on the release date and a few days after, overall, not nearly as significant of a crash as I thought. Now the reality is that for blood runes, the bottom they can pretty much ever hit is 200 each, and that is because there is a shop that would purchase them from you for 200 each, that being the Ali's Rune Shop. So they can't ever go below 200, but still considering that, not actually a very significant change at all. Moving on here to Death Runes. Death Runes did crash a bit. They went from 200 down to 190, but that's not that big a difference either, to be honest. Next up here we have Wrath Runes. Even though these are not obtained in the minigame, theoretically people who have the skilling outfit would now be getting 60% more Wrath Runes, which is pretty significant. And we can see they went from 460 down to 417, but that's not even the lowest point of the month. So overall, really not that significant of a change either. Probably the rune with the largest change would actually be Mud Runes. You can see here that as of the update, they went from 270 down to 160, which is, getting pretty close to being cut in half. I expect these to continue to drop further because, like I mentioned, thanks to the Ring of the Elements, you can teleport directly to the Earth Altar, making crafting mud runes a viable alternative to lava rune crafting. Still very high experience per hour, yet you're also going to be profiting significant money as well. Now, whenever something is done primarily for experience, the money per hour usually goes into the trash bin, and I expect that will be the case eventually, but I think they could still retain some profitability. So overall this month, yes, there has been a fairly notable change in the price of runes, but not as badly as I would have imagined. I think partially this is due to the fact that the majority of people don't actually have the rune crafting outfit yet. It's also incredibly slow to obtain. I've been working away at it for a fair number of hours this week, and I still only have 2 pieces of it. So once a lot of people start getting it, I think the price of runes will start to crash more. Yet the cheaper runes get, the more in demand they are. So like blood runes, they're going to see more use if they get cheaper, which will kind of help even out the price. Now, one thing I always actively monitor are the price of third age items, partly because of my flipping series, which is a quick deviation here. The episode is coming, but it's been taking a while to figure something out that I think will make for a good video. Bit of a slow month, so yeah, still working on it. Might be a bit longer though. But yeah, one item I always monitor are third age items, specifically the third age Druidic top and bottom, because, well, I have to purchase them for my series. Now, I think I mentioned this, but back in September, there was finally a breaking point that was hit. They fell below max cash for the first time in what feels like a year. From September till now, the third age Druidic bottoms have crashed from 2.1 bill or max cash down to around half of that, about 1.4 bill. The third age Druidic bottom did something pretty similar, going from max cash down to 1.6 bill. And kind of across the board, most third age items have been crashing. Here we just have another expensive one, the third age Longsword, going from around 1 bill down to 400 mil, so that has crashed over in half. So why is this happening? Well, one reason I would say definitely Raids 3. With Raids 3, there's going to be a bunch of new unique rewards, a bunch of gear needed for the raid, so money is going to be spent better elsewhere. So there are a ton of rich people right now selling off their expensive rare items that have pretty much no functional use in preparation for new items that will actually have some utility. And I think that's pretty much the only reason these are crashing so much. Now, another update that came out this month, well, I wouldn't really call it an update, but the Shattered Relics League ended, and with it, all of the new rewards got flooded into the marketplace. Now, one thing I find kind of interesting about this is the rewards actually started off pretty similar in price to what they are worth today. Obviously, the first few sold for a bunch, that's just kind of the way it always works, but very quickly after, most of the items crashed a lot, but they actually rebounded a significant amount and have held their value ever since. Now, this is quite different than the Trailblazer release, where after a couple of days, the items crashed tremendously. So the way that things shook out for the Shattered Relics League, a bit different. For example, here we have the Cannon Ornament Kit. A few hours after the shop had opened, they were worth about 500k each. Now they're worth about $1 mil each. The Shattered Relics Void Kit, a couple hours after release, it went down to about 400 or 500k each. Currently now worth around 1 mil each. Now I think this really comes down to one issue. A lot of people burnt out of the third league. So I think the amount of rewards that were actually introduced into the game were less than Trailblazer, but the demand was still very high to purchase them, as there were some of the more bombastic rewards. For example, the cannon. I mean, the cannon is insane. Kind of a desirable item just because of how over the top it is. So there's still a lot of desire for the item. Yeah, I think there's a lot less supply in the game, and, well, no more are going to be introduced for a while. So I think the price of all the shattered items staying pretty consistent. Now, every month here, we are getting closer to Raids 3. Now, as of yet, we still don't know the exact release date, but it should be coming sometime this year. Now, pretty much the entire economy has been slowly trending upwards for the last few months or so. A few items in particular seem to be affected a lot. We have the Inquisitors armor set and Mace, which has seen pretty much a 100 mil increase in the last 3 months. We have the Mace doing a pretty similar trend, going up around 100 mil as well in the last couple of months. We have staple items like Ancestral going up a ton as well, from 120 mil up to 170 mil, bringing it up to one of the highest points it's ever been at since its release anyway. Another interesting item here, we have the Nightmare Staff. Not really sure why this is going up as much, but just in general, it seems like Nightmare items as a whole have been trending upwards. But the Nightmare Staff itself has gone from 20 mil up to 33 mil, so getting kind of close to doubling in the quarter, which is really significant. There seems to be some talk about a lot of bots being banned there, so maybe that could be having some effect. And next up here we have the Bandos Chestplate, which after its massive crash in January has significantly recouped, and probably by the time Raids 3 is out, will eclipse its previous peak. Keeping in mind, this is pretty much the most expensive the Bandos Chestplate has ever been. Next up here we have the Armadyl Chestplate. Interestingly, didn't actually go up nearly as much as any other item, even though there was this giant peak where they announced that Armadyl would be required to create the new ranged armor. Since then, it has kind of just fallen back down to its baseline level. Personally, I think it was just already fairly inflated that it just nobody cared. But as a whole, thanks to the new raid that's coming out, the market is super hot right now. Most items are trending up, albeit slowly, and Raids 3 is not soon. I mean, it's coming out in 2022, but you know, we still have a long ways to go. Prices could continue to go up further and further, or as we get more information regarding the raid, some items might crash, others might go up, depending on what people perceive is going to be the best. Anyway guys, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about for this month. Hope you guys enjoyed it as always. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Now before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Nello, Alejandra, The Hybrid, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed to the Dragon tier. Really, I appreciate it so much. Also a giant thank you to Kaitin987, Mexos, Base Titch, MDM001, and YoYoSub89 for being subscribed to the Rune tier. Appreciate you guys as well. As always, if anyone's looking for a direct way to support me, YouTube membership is the best way to do so. You'll get immortalized in all of my future videos, you can get a custom role in my Discord server, and you'll even know when all my videos are coming out. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.